Okay. I think we can actually get started. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm excited to introduce the CEO of Inflo, one of our longtime partners here at DataSnipper. Um, as a quick intro on myself, I work at DataSnipper. I work on our partnerships program here. Inflo has been a longtime partner to help us really create more value for both of our customers. Would love to give you, Mark, the space to introduce yourself very quickly.
Yeah, thanks, George, and really nice to meet everybody. So I'm Mark Edmonson, founder, CEO of Inflo, ex-PwC auditor. So I do have the ability to get into the technical standards for anyone who really wants to at any point in time. But as you can tell, I've got a British accent as well. So I'm from the UK, but over here, so we're doing a lot of work in the US right now. So really pleased to meet everybody.
Incredible. Mark, why don't you just share a little bit around the founding story of Inflo, how you got into it, where the idea came from, and the whole story there.
Yeah, well, I've noticed on the name badges we've got a few Big Four people. So I'm formerly Big Four as well, PwC, and I got involved during my career there in some of their global innovation efforts. So kind of went from regional and office level innovation all the way up to national and then global. And that was a really exciting journey where I learned a heck of a lot around technology, innovation, change management, and led a few really big projects, one of which saved an estimated, per my boss's records, 15% of audit hours across the world, led their audit methodology transformation. And as a reward for that, I got a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year and was told that I needed to go again to try and get that promotion that I was looking for. And it was probably around that point where I started to think whether this was really the place that I wanted to be, in terms of I felt like I could make quite an impact through developing technology, leading innovation, and I was potentially cocky enough, confident enough to think that I could go and do that without PwC and I could do it myself. And so I managed to grab a couple of people and go and make the leap, which was an interesting one. I had a daughter under 1 and another daughter on the way at the time, and made the leap to leave that safe employment and go, let's try and create something. And we had a great team pulled together, and we were able to really connect with our market very quickly, because the PwC credentials that we left with, we'd already shown that we could build this kind of technology, and a lot of early firms really jumped on that and could see the potential of what we were trying to do.
Incredible. Talk us through about sort of the early stages of the business, how you assembled the first team, when you kind of knew the eureka moment for the business, right? Like, were there any signals of early success that told you this is an idea that you need to continue investing in? Share a little bit around the evolution of Inflo.
So the thesis was that we were, myself and the person who ultimately became my main co-founder, the two of us had been working, me from more of an audit, how do you apply technology mindset into a methodology, and my co-founder was more from a data and IT perspective of how could we get data and use it. And so the two of us, for a good period of time previously, have been trying to compare those two mindsets and say, how could we use data to transform the way that the audit process happens? Well, when we were outside of Inflo, we said, well, it looks like from our perspective, the Big Four firms are all investing in this technology themselves. They're building their own unique dashboarding capabilities, whether it's called Halo or Helix or all these different names of Spotlight, etc., Clara. We could see that those firms were building something very big and very expensive and very proprietary, and we couldn't see anybody outside the Big Four doing anything at all. And so we could see that the gap was becoming bigger and bigger between what the big firms could do and what the still quite big firms, GT, RSM, BDO, big firms, were falling behind in terms of the technology capabilities. And so when we founded the company, we knew that we could mock up a lot of the data analytics techniques using off-the-shelf tools, ACL, Excel, etc. And so we mocked that up, and we walked into some accounting firms on the first week of founding the company and said, this is what we're thinking of doing, this is our product. And there's a lot of tricks you can do in Excel to make it look like software, even though it's still Excel. So if you get rid of the ribbons and the rows and the banners at the top, etc., and put some buttons in, it looks like software. And we pitched it to a few firms just to get their honest feedback. We didn't want to try and hoodwink them, but we wanted to get some real feedback. And at the end of the meeting, they said, so where do we sign? And we were like, no sales contracts, no real idea. Like, we were like, oh, we'll come back to you on that one. But that was an early stage that we understood the market, even though we didn't have the product. Technology companies talk about product market fit. We understood the market, so we knew the product we were building was in the right ballpark. We charged people for the spreadsheets. So SaaS in the early days for Inflo was spreadsheet as a service, and you paid for £500 for a spreadsheet to do your journal entry testing. Now, that might not feel like a big thing, but people paying you money and giving you feedback based on whether they got value from that is so critical to building a product. If you give it away for free, you don't get very good feedback. If you charge for it, you get really good feedback. And so we used that to fuel our growth in the early stages where we didn't even have a product, but we were still revenue generating. We were getting really good feedback. And one inflection point was probably when we then met with Grant Thornton, because we were still trying to work out where's the kind of line here. We know we can't really go to the big four with this because they've got their own things, but like, where is the line where we could sell to? Is it like the top 10, the top 20? Like, we sold to the fifth biggest within 6 months. And so we were like, okay, the line's the top four, and we can basically work with everybody else. And so over time, we've been able to build that momentum. And when we got Grant Thornton in the UK as our customer, very, very early doors, they almost partnered with us to build out the product and make sure it fit exactly what an audit firm of their size needed. So that helped us to kind of knock some of our big four edge out of us and make it much more applicable to the broader market. And then since then, it's just been a continual kind of flow of, there's been a number of milestones that we've been doing things, but it's been a real kind of success from there. And so, really pleased with how the market has responded, the profession has responded to embracing these new capabilities.
Can you tell us a little bit about your perspective on the product ecosystem, right? There's PBC software, there's other productivity tools, there's research tools, there's engagement tools. What were some of the key product decisions that you made as Inflo's leader to make sure that you're addressing the evolving needs of accountants, but you're also staying true to your first principles as Inflo as a company?
And it starts with how our product has evolved, and then probably starts to talk about how we're working with others now. So we primarily started as a data analytics company. So we would be able to produce you analytics to support your journals testing and your revenue testing. Those were the two things we did. Then we quickly found that the firms that we were taking that to didn't really have the capability of extracting, transforming, and loading the data from their clients to get to the dashboards. At PwC, we had big teams of people, data scientists who were doing that. The firms we were working with didn't really have those capabilities in-house. So we had to build out the product to basically handle data ingestion from any client accounting system. And that's one of our unique selling points, is we can get data from any client accounting system in the world. We then said, well, if we're getting the data directly from the client, why don't we get all of the other information that the client provides as part of the audit process? Because clients don't really want 2 or 3 different places to upload this information. So we extended out to the PBC tool, the client collaboration piece. And then we found that firms were kind of hitting a bit of a wall with that. They were getting that in, they were trying it, they were growing it, they were expanding out to their client base. But then they were kind of like us sharing, it feels like there's so much more we could do with the data as part of the audit process than just journal testing and revenue testing. But we can't really work it out because our methodology doesn't really feel like it promotes that. Feels like it actually probably prohibits us doing these kind of things. And so that was the point where we really had to make a big decision, because we would have to move from being a tool that they could just add into their technology stack, because most firms didn't really have data analytics or a PBC tool at that time, to now being a tool that if we developed an audit methodology and an audit platform, we'd have to be selling much more of a transformation. You have to get rid of your CCH, Thomson Reuters caseware platform, and put ours in, which is a different process for a firm to go through. But it was a big decision that we got right, because we decided to then say, right, let's rethink an audit methodology using data rather than using roll forward and a bunch of checklists, and say, what would the audit look like if we took a more data-driven, automated approach to this? So we built out the audit methodology, we built out the audit platform to house the methodology, we created all the integrations to the data analytics, to the other tools that we had, to create a much more coherent and cohesive set of tools. We retained as well, though, the flexibility that firms could pick and choose which bits of that they wanted. So we didn't walk in and say, you have to take all of it. We went in and said, well, what's the problem that we need to solve here together? And which bit of the tool do you need to do that? So some firms just use our work papers tool. Some firms just use our ingestion capability. Some use the whole thing. Some use anything in between. Then though, you look at it and go, well, can Inflo really provide everything an audit firm needs? And the answer is quite candidly, no. We cannot give you every single piece of technology that you need to do a really effective audit process. And anyone who claims they can is ignorant to how an audit actually works. There are so many different facets to doing an audit. And so we took a view that was, everybody keeps asking us to do everything, but we'd rather focus on doing what we do really, really well. What we need to then find is really great partners who are really good at the bits that we don't want to do, but these firms need some help with. And that's where partnerships with the likes of DataSnipper really come to the forefront. You go, well, people asked us to build DataSnipper. And we said, no, because DataSnipper's the best at building DataSnipper. And I think likewise, you probably wouldn't go and say, let's build something that Inflo does, because they're really good at that. And that's where I think we get really progressive partnerships, because you're actually trying to be the best at what you do and then work out how to bring that together for the customer.
I think tactically speaking, how do you see your engage, right? There's this theme of focus. How do you see your relationship with this open ecosystem? Where do you say, yes, we want to partner? Where do you say, maybe, no, we won't do that? Or is it, we do a little bit of everything? What's your take on partnerships?
So I think one thing I'd share is I see that the way I used to view the market, and obviously I learned a lot leaving PwC and then looking at what other firms had available to them. I was quite surprised, to be honest with you, with just the gap between what we had available to us at PwC and what I could see wasn't available outside of the Big Four. So to your question, George, the first thing we're thinking about as we're looking at that is, we don't want to be the kind of vendor that has been in this market for a while now. And by that I mean, we don't want to be a legacy vendor who says you have to buy all of our stuff because it's the only thing it works with, right? So you are going to have to be a CCH firm or a Thomson Reuters firm or whatever brand you want to call it. We take a view to say, we think the suite approach is kind of dead as approach. We think that you should be looking at a best of breed strategy and then using the fact that cloud native technologies and APIs allow you to create the integration between those tools. That was what the promise of a suite was. It was, these are all integrated, they all work together. Didn't really work out like that, but that compromised massively. Now you can pick the best tools on the market, and if they're cloud native and they have APIs, you can join them together and you can make that overall ecosystem really work for you. When we look at partnerships, we're looking for a few things. One is, firstly, do we have common customers? Because if we don't have common customers, that probably indicates that the customers that we're looking to serve aren't buying the same thing from somebody else. So we start always from a position of, are customers asking us to join these two tools together? And it was coming back loud and clear from a lot of ours, and I'm sure yours as well. It's like, well, we've got Inflo, we've got DataSnipper. It'd be great if you two guys could get this to work, right? That's a great foundation for a partnership, because you've got some customers who want to share with you how they think it's going to work, how it's going to solve a problem for them. Then for me, it's about cultural alignment, because we've done partnerships before that haven't worked out, and most of the time it's because we've tried to partner with somebody who wasn't as agile as us, didn't really care as much about the customer as us, and they wanted to do it for a different reason. What we're trying to do is find other companies who have that mindset of, let's focus on the customer, let's be agile, let's create solutions here, and let's get it into the hands of the customers. So you want to find like-minded partners, and trying to force the issue doesn't really work at all.
And I think we're really excited to be able to continue making progress, right? To stay in our own lanes, but to be able to connect together of the incredible product that you've been able to build, and for us as well. As a last question, I'd love to hear a little bit around, right? Like, tell everyone where Inflo's heading next, right? Strategically, where do you see kind of the world going? At DataSnipper, one of our key trends that we're seeing is, right, like, we want to create delight for our auditors. We want to make sure that we're solving talent burnout. Where do you see the world heading, and how is Inflo and its relationship with other firms doing that?
Well, I think probably everybody in this room, I would say one of the key things that I hear too much right now is like AI hype, to be quite honest with you. And there's some good news here today in terms of some real use cases for AI. But I see a lot of noise in the market around what AI looks like, how it's going to impact the future of audit, etc. And most of it is complete BS right now. And that's going to calm down a little bit. But one thing I would say for firms who are trying to like put themselves in the best place would be to say, this technology is getting overhyped right now, but it will find a place that it's going to work and it's going to settle in. Most firms right now, though, are not in a place to capitalize on emerging technology. If you think about it, so a lot of firms we speak to want to use AI in their audit process, but they're currently using desktop-based tools where all of that data is completely unstructured and it's saved in all of their C drives on their laptops and their machines. So we talk to a lot of firms about, well, we can see direction of travel where the profession's going. More data-driven, using AI, rethinking the resourcing model, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are you ready for that today? And most firms, if they're honest, will say no. What do we need to do then to get you in a place that you can capitalize on that when the time is right? And what are those things? Well, firstly, it's get into the cloud. Get rid of any desktop tool that you've got and get into the cloud. But most importantly, get your hands around your data. Understand where your data is, where your client's data is, how structured and consistent it is. Is it getting tagged and taxonomied to the right kind of way that it could be utilized? Because if you can get yourself in a place where you have like a very solid data structure across your entire firm, you will be able to capitalize on any emerging technology that drops. But if you don't, you're going to be behind already because you're going to need to do all of that foundational work. So think about it like building the foundations to your house. Most people we talk to want to start talking about what windows they're going to put in, and they've not even broken ground. You need to start focusing on the data disciplines across your entire firm so you can then start to build the right foundations for you to build the future firm that you want to be. I'm sure a lot of firms are well progressed on some of that thinking and their journey, but I think there's always more you can be doing around data, should we say storage mechanisms, whatever, but also data competencies and data skills across your firm, and how do you get your people ready to really truly leverage some of these tools?
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your insights today. We're excited to continue investing in our partnership. We'd love to turn it back to the crowd here to see if there's any questions. Would love to give it back to the crowd here. And so if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Going once? Okay.
You talked about kind of doing what is best for, like, what's best for you and your company, where DataSnipper is doing what they're best at.
Yep.
When do you start considering looking into different avenues or innovating in flow in new areas? Like, how do you come to that decision?
It's highly customer led. So there's an element of, obviously we know that it's like strategically what space we want to own and where we want to be. And so that kind of defines, if you want, the playing field. But we're very heavily led by our customers, and that's at both a very tactical level. So in our platform, any user anywhere can add a feature, and all of the users upvote the features, and that goes straight into our product roadmap. So there's a very tactical micro level approach to that. Then from a macro level, it's always about working with like the CIOs or the leaders of accounting firms to say, well, this is where we are right now. Where do you think we should be going here? Where do you think the opportunity is to really transform your firm? And so I'd say it's about listening to the market much more than kind of sitting in a darkened room and trying to plan global domination. But that's how we approach it. So did you want to jump in?
I was wondering if there was any time during your path where you started going down one technology and realized maybe it wasn't what was big, or you changed your mind.
Yeah, really great question. So, a little while ago, one of the trends that we were seeing was around open banking, and the fact that banks would be able to expose data to providers like us to be able to try and start using that in the audit process. And we saw a real big opportunity there to say, well, hang on a minute, can we not transform? Jesus Christ, can somebody? Remco, can you kill? We saw an opportunity to transform the external confirmation market, because we thought that, well, hang on a minute, if you get from the third-party bank the evidence that you need directly, the transactions, the balances, etc., why would you send a paper confirmation or a traditional format? So the theory was really sound, right? We can use APIs to pull data from banks, and we can start using that data in the audit process. The problem turned out to be twofold. One was that the banks haven't implemented open banking correctly. They've all implemented it totally differently. So you want a standard data set, you can't get it from all these banks. And so functionally it didn't work. Also, we turned support tickets around in about 1 hour. And when we were using a third party to help with this data feed, it took them 3 weeks if we needed to escalate them. So our customers were going through the roof going, we sent you a support ticket, you haven't come back to us in 2 weeks, and going, yeah, sorry, like we use a third party. And then the third bit was regulators didn't in any way recognize third party data sources as being a bank confirmation. And as much as they were talking about it, the detail that they put into the new standards didn't really enable it, certainly not in the right way. And so we actually had to make a difficult decision around that to say, look, this product just doesn't meet what we would set as our bar for releasing a product. We had some customers using it, starting to like it, and we just had to go and say to them, like, sorry guys, really tough conversation. We're pulling this product because this just doesn't meet our standard and we can't see a way out of this. So that's maybe one example where it hasn't really worked out. It was a difficult one for us because we didn't want to really pull a product from customers who were using it. We were just like, this just doesn't fit with what we're trying to do. We don't think it'll get you what you're trying to do either. So we're going to make that tough decision. So we learned a lot from that, particularly around using third parties as part of your process going forward. So does that answer your question? Perfect.
Well, thank you so
We're
much.
clearly being told to leave. So.
Can we just give it a round of applause for Mark for his time here? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll be around for a little bit if you want to grab me for any question or anything like that.